Welcome back. You're in the Politbureau. The Democratic Alliance has announced policy in preparation for the upcoming election, and their big plan is to target illegal migration. The DA says the country's borders are too porous, and the clampdown on undocumented foreign nationals in Johannesburg that took a week was followed by a media briefing unveiling the party's plan to combat illegal aliens. This has led to criticism from some quarters that the official opposition is being xenophobic. Well, is it?
Away from the issue will help no one. I think the DA is very brave to actually go into the issue and taking the issue on. We know it's a very, very sensitive issue.
Over 30 undocumented foreign nationals were apprehended during those operations in the City of Gold this week. SAPS and the JMPD giving expression to DA Mayor Herman Mashaba's call for an illegal immigration crackdown in Johannesburg. Why are you working there?
I'm trying to manage my life.
Is there no work in Malawi? What's happening in Malawi?
That side is working, but there's I don't know what's happening because the money is there's no value. When you have like 100 kwacha, you can't manage to buy a bread. So when I have 100 rand, if I send it home, is making like at least you can manage to buy something.
Are you here legally?
First time I come here, I was having the passport.
And now?
Now, like, my passport is lost.
So do you have rights to work in South Africa?
I'm not good about the rules. I don't know anything because the last time I checked, I was only used passport to come this side.
Why are you working here illegally?
I don't know.
Well, joining us to connect the dots on this, the DA spokesperson on immigration, Jacques Julius, and Nkobuto Mabena from the African Diaspora Forum. Gentlemen, thank you very much for giving us some of your Sunday. Mr. Julius, quite the topic you've chosen to unveil as one of the first policies ahead of elections next year. How's it different from Donald Trump's America First? You're calling for South Africans first, aren't you?
Certainly very different, Nicholas. Thank you for having me. Very different from Donald Trump. Donald Trump must remember that America was built by immigration entrepreneurs. They immigrated there and they're still building that country. He's calling for a high wall and actually closing his gates. Well, the DA is saying we need to secure our border fences, but actually have a very smart gate where people can come in and out of South Africa with ease. We need to invite immigrants that can actually build our economy together with South Africans, work and play in our country, you know. And that is a DA stance. We're not supporting the one of Donald Trump, certainly not.
Well, we'll get to the immigrants that are here, as some may argue, building the economy and creating jobs for jobless South Africans. But Mr. Mabena, I will bring you in now. How is this being interpreted in migrant circles? When I engage with foreign nationals, they feel like South Africans don't want them here. And in many cases, they fear for their lives.
Well, firstly, we'll know that the South African government has been reviewing its international migration policy since 2015, which I hope they were part of it in Parliament. Because the 1999 white paper on international migration did not espouse Pan-Africanism. The recent one, the 2017 gazetted policy on international migration, speaks to African challenges. It recognizes that migration is a global phenomenon and you cannot run away from it. And the new policy puts into mechanism on how to deal with the migration. Firstly, there's a question of documenting the migrant from the SADC region who are already in South Africa. Either they are working, either they are running their businesses known as the SADC work visa or SADC business visas. It also speaks to your SADC, those in the SADC region that move into South Africa, cross-border traders. There is, in this law, a cross-border trade visa given to someone who comes from Lusaka, Harare, Bulawayo, Lilongwe to come and stock their goods, go back and sell, because the South African government understands that there is movement within the region. And how then do you address the question of movement in the region? What the DA is doing, it's a populist approach. It is not different from Trump. It is not different from what we see, the populist movements rising even in Brazil, the recent election.
Mr. Mabena, we're going to have to stop you there for a second. Your response, Mr. Julius, I mean, essentially, wouldn't you argue that the framework is there? It's just, once again, coming down to implementation. And second part of that question, surely there is positive aspects to immigration. The DA surely sees that as well. I mean, a lot of foreign nationals that I engage with in the streets of Johannesburg are working here legally, are trading here legally, and in many instances are hiring South Africans that can't find jobs elsewhere.
Yes, certainly, and we welcome that. We are not far from what Ngabutu is saying. And I'll show to you that actually we are moving in the same direction. It's just that they see something that's not there in the DA's policy. What we are saying is that there's a perception currently out there with South Africans that foreign nationals that are in the country are all illegal here, that they are taking people's jobs, that I even heard that people are coming to South Africa just to get grants through corrupt measures, you know. We are not blaming foreign nationals. We put our blame straight to the ANC because of the porous borders. You must remember, when your borders are porous, when there's corruption at Home Affairs offices and our port of entries, that creates the perception that all are illegal, and that creates a xenophobic tendency or perception with South Africans.
But some may argue that you are capitalizing on that perception to get votes.
Yes.
The perception that there's illegal immigrants, they're all here for nefarious means. I mean, you're capitalizing on this perception to draw South Africans to vote for you.
Let me put that straight to you once and for all, clear the record. This is an issue that's affecting South Africans. It's a real issue, and as a political party, we need to take action. If we leave the issue, it will not go away. The inaction by the ANC to leave our borders in that state, to not doing something about the corruption and so forth, that's our stance, you know. We are actually saying that we should welcome immigrants into the country. But whilst our borders are like that, we need to change that so that the perception of South Africans will change to say that, you know what, my brother from Africa, also from elsewhere, whether you are from Switzerland or Swaziland, that we can work, play in South Africa next to each other. That's our stance. But unless we secure our borders, do away with corruption, and treat immigration, you know, also our asylum seekers, you know, treat them with dignity, we will never get it right. So we need to start there and then help bring people in that can help build our economy and create jobs for South Africans that are needed.
Mr. Mabena, would you admit that there is a fair amount of illegal migration going on? We're talking about corruption at the borders and that foreign nationals in South Africa, there are a number of them that are involved in crime, whether or not it is coming here illegally or falling into the trap of becoming a criminal when opportunities are not forthcoming.
The last time I checked, there were about 5% of migrants in South African jails. And in terms of the migrants that are said to be taking people's jobs in South Africa, the percentage is very low. I think it's also below 6%. So these claims are not founded. They are not supported by any data. Yes, we recognize that there are people that are not documented in South Africa. Hence the policy that I spoke to about, that in 2015, the South African government started to say the policy does not really speak from an African perspective. How do you deal with the migration within the SADC region? Because you cannot do away with migration. So what the DA is saying, this is why I was saying it is, because you remember when Mayor Herman Mashaba in 2016 on 100 days of his speech, he was condemning migrants because they see it as a political issue to use it for electioneering purposes. We do not think that it is an issue that should be used for political purposes. But
Mr. Julius, I'm going to have to bring you in here as we're running out of time. Does the DA want foreign nationals in South Africa, and what type of foreign nationals? Because some may argue that the DA is going for soft targets. They're going for African migrants that are trying to sell their wares on the street, that are operating outside the confines of the law. You have European migrants. You speak to various diplomats from European countries, and they talk about how easy it is for perhaps maybe a retired German national, retired Slovakian national, French national, to come in here and spend 6 months of the year retired in South Africa and leave leave every 3 months just to get that border stamp to make their stay illegal in the eyes of the law, which is something that African migrants can't do so easily.
We certainly want, African migrants are our brothers and sisters. We certainly want them here. If you're looking for asylum, there's a process to come in. But what we are saying, you must be documented in our country. No country can allow a free-for-all. No country in the world can allow it. Even in Zimbabwe, they cannot allow it because we need to plan, we need to budget for services, and we simply cannot open our borders for all. People are coming into the lines, and we're not blaming foreign nationals that are coming into our country legally. We are taking our fight to the ANC. So my brother here must actually support us so that we can get this thing right in the future. Unless we take it on, the issue will not go away. And the ANC is actually hiding now.
Gentlemen, we'll have to leave it at that. That is Jacques Julius of the DA, spokesperson on immigration, and of course Ngobutu Mabela of the African Diaspora Forum. Coming up next, Spinners and Spanners, John Steenhuisen and the debacle over a higher education qualifying you for public office. An educated guess?